inside what the hell is going on. Leroy, we just gave a metric that Jason Lloyd gave us yesterday that says not only are the Browns 32nd in run efficiency, they are 32nd by a mile. Like, the gap between them and 31 is incredibly large.
Mm-hmm.
They are also it's the lowest a team has ever rated in run defense since this metric became a thing in the year 2000. So we're not just bad, we're historically bad. What are you seeing?
Well, part of the reason I was on TV a lot on a bunch of radio shows last week, and what I suggested is that the Browns don't rush, play more of a two gap.
Yeah, don't blitz.
And bat the ball down. Because what has plagued the Browns for the last few games, win or lose, is you got these two outside guys go and get the passer, and there's no pressure up the middle, and you're creating seams every which way possible. So you're not only creating seams for a short quarterback to throw the ball, but you're also creating seams for them to run the ball. And you can't stop either one as long as you allow these seams in the defense. So whatever's going on and all the things that Tyvis is talking about are accurate. I would say without being able to get some consistent pressure up the middle, however you want to do it, you are putting everyone else in a difficult spot. And you're asking that secondary to cover two of the fastest guys in the league. You're asking those linebackers to figure out what's going on because, normally when the Browns play well, they don't need all that time to figure out what's going on because the defense is getting there. But whenever that doesn't happen, they get pieced up, both running the football and passing the football. And what I would say is this. The only thing that really got to me was there's a rule in football. And it's offensively and defensively. And you learn this rule in the beginning of camp. Offensively, they tell you the first preseason game, they're going to throw a couple of blitzes at you. If you don't pick them up, you're going to see that blitz all year. Right? Defensively, if you can't stop the run in preseason, you're going to get ran on all year. And they're going to pick you apart. And what I would say is once you find out you're not getting pressure up the middle, as coaches, you have to find a way to get pressure up the middle. Whether it's with games, whether it was linebackers lining up in the A-gap, you can line linebackers up in the A-gap and make them block a certain way and then drop out.
Yep.
But you got to do something. Stop lining these guys up in the same spots every play and thinking it's going to get better.
Leroy, the part that gets me the most is that when I was watching it, they line up with these wide edges.
Oh, my
and
God.
I'm like, you cannot do that unless you got some dogs in the middle. You cannot do that.
Right. But Ty, think of this. You line these guys up damn near wide nines.
Yep.
Every time. And I'll be like.
And they thinking they going to get. And then you got the two tackles dapping each other up over in the A-gaps. Every team in the world going to check to a run.
Leroy, why hasn't Kevin Stefanski see what you guys are saying is blatantly obvious? Why can't he see it?
Here's why. And I thought about this too.
Give me something, man.
Sometimes you are limited on what you can do or what you can adjust to based on the people you have in the game. Meaning that me and Tyvis have fun with this, but part of the reason why you have a go-to defense is because you know some of these young guys don't know what the hell to do. Mm-hmm. So anytime a guy go in motion and you see that your team isn't adjusting to it properly, then that safety or that linebacker just gonna check to base defense. So when you see that guy going in motion, if somebody don't chase him and y'all playing man coverage and the safety see that, it's either gonna be a timeout or check to base defense. So I don't know if they have adjustments in place or defenses in place to do these things, but then when it all happens, they just check the base, because that's what it seems like. It seems like far too many times you got a fire drill going on offense, and the defense just back up and play base defense. And so I don't know what that is, but even from that standpoint, here's what I would do. I would blitz to stop the run. So if you put enough pressure on any quarterback, he gonna start looking at the wrong things. Ain't nobody that poised, because nobody like being hit. And the fact that they've never even tried to do that. Like, we all been watching Tom Brady for how many years? And what's the deal? Try to get pressure up the middle. Try to get pressure up the middle. So all these coaches try. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. But they know what they need to do.
Leroy, I
watch this team and I say, hey, man, isn't it time to make a couple of adjustments? If you're going to give up a bomb, give it up blitzing everybody. Because that's where you are.
I just think, Leroy, when you look at both sides of the football, and, you know, sometimes, you know, people think that I'm a knee-jerk reaction person. Well, I can look at you and see if it ain't going to work or not. I just know. I look at it. I can look at it a couple times to see if it's not going to work. But my problem is when and this is team-wide, offense and defense, right? When I watch other teams, and this is irrefutable, I watch other teams, and when we get ready to play those teams, we look at the film and we like, wow, they make sure their playmakers get it. They make sure you're going to be scared as hell of Tyreek Hill. He got 1,200 yards already. And then they spot shadow it so much that when you come into the game, they're like, oh, yeah, you know what? Yeah, we got Tyreek Hill. And even though we like Tyreek Hill, you so bad in the run game, we're going to get whatever we want either way. So my problem is when you talk about the defense and how it looks, there are some times that I think people don't understand. There's incompetent people in every walk of life. Everybody ain't even a good minister. Mm-hmm. Everybody's not a good mechanic. Everybody's not a good actor. At some point, you have to tell yourself, I understand we want to put these people on pedestals, but it's unequivocally to the point right now. You understand as it's malpractice for a defensive coordinator to not see these basic. You talk basically, Leroy. There's basics. You know, run blitzing is basics. Like, I can't stop you, but let's get people in the box. You run the ball with three people in the backfield.
Exactly. Well, and here's the other thing.
Well, they do walk people down in the box.
Hey,
they do. It be
you know what I learned a long
box.
time ago? That just because you got a title don't mean you good at it.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying?
Super
facts. Like, stop thinking just because you go into a doctor's office that doctor is good. Stop acting just because you go to a mechanic that mechanic is good. We make those assumptions far too often. Now, look, I will say this. If you're in the NFL, you're amongst the elite to play the sport. But it don't mean you the elite
of the elite.
Of the elite. Right. And so I would say that there's a whole lot of stuff going on that we don't know about. Right? For example, Tyvis broke down a play, right? And it's all fine and great and dandy, right? But who's to say that they ain't watch film and they said Tyreek is going to run that quick out or that 7, so guard against that. And then they change it up and he run across the field.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So there's a lot of things at play. So I don't really try to, talk about as much of the game plan or what's being told, because sometimes what we see, we don't understand what the plan was going into this. I basically deal with the basics, and that is, if your quarterback is getting sacked, you need an extra protector. If you can't get at the quarterback, you need to change it up and find different ways to get at him.
I feel
You see, just basic things like that. So when I watch a game and I'm seeing a team get picked apart and not stopping anything, my immediate response is, y'all better do something to stop one of these things.
But doesn't that ultimately go on to the coordinator?
Deal with the consequences.
But ultimately, Leroy, doesn't that go to the coordinator? He's the guy that has to devise something to stop it.
What is his?
Yes.
When he came to Cleveland, that was his first coordinator experience, because he was a DB coach in San Fran and Denver, right?
I'm not sure about that. McNuggets, can you look that up? Is this Joe Woods' first D-Cord job?
Yeah, because if that's the case, then
Hold on, ask it one more time. I didn't hear.
Is this Joe Woods' first job as a defensive coordinator? Was he a D coordinator somewhere else, or was he just a position coach?
I'm 99.9% positive. I'm pretty sure D coordinator in Denver. Hold on.
No, I don't think he was. What? I thought he was a DB coach.
No, he's not the defensive coordinator in Denver.
He was defensive coordinator for the Broncos from 2017 and 2018. So, no, not his first defensive coordinator.
So he was a defensive coordinator in Denver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing he just didn't walk away because he was doing so well.
What, in Denver?
Yeah.
Well, he ended up. So what happened is
they had a good defense.
They had a good defense. What happened is San Francisco lost Jeff Hafley. Jeff Hafley was my DB coach. He went to Ohio State to be the D coordinator. They had to fill the DB coach job, so they went and got Joe Woods from Denver.
Denver had a top 5 defense with Joe Woods as the defensive coordinator in 2017. So.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
It's perplexing because they did last year at the end of the year, too.
I don't understand.
At the end of the season, if you go from week 8 on, they were a top 5 defense.
Well, let me give you this.
I just don't know why we're seeing 2 different looks.
And I'm
again,
going to throw it to Leroy right after I say this. Sometimes when you got coaches, people believe that if you can minimize the damage, right? People don't want to see splash plays. People think that if I just give up a big play, people gonna notice that. Big plays, you gonna get fired. But if I just play conservative and I just make them take another snap, people won't get on me as much if I'm giving up 7 points after 12 plays. But if I'm giving up big time points on deep balls, on crazy runs, all these big splash plays, then it brings a little attention to yourself. But he doesn't understand that we still see you. We still understand
that. Death by a million cuts.
You still dying.
Here.
He is giving up the splash plays, though.
He was early.
They giving up a bunch of explosives, and that's the problem. That's the frustrating part, because this defense is predicated to not really give up.
They were blatant.
Big
misses
miscommunication.
Guys were like smoke on a smoke break on the sidelines.
They was all doing this and doing that.
Right. And that's gone away. But to G. Bush's point, now it's death by a million cuts.
Yeah, by the run game.
Yeah. Well, and guess what? There's a lot of D coordinators that think like that. And you know where this started, right?
Where?
Belichick.
Okay.
Belichick had a theory, and that was, if you're an offense and you can go 12 plays without a mistake, without a false start, without a holding, without a drop ball, if you can go 12 plays, I'm going to tip my hat to you. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to make you go 12, 13 plays to score.
Absolutely.
That's fascinating.
That's it.
You see?
Absolutely.
And
that's
so
why that Patriots defense has always been a bend but don't break. Probably because Bill's philosophy is you're going to have to do what you just said.
They always say stay on top, because don't no quarterback want to sit there all game and take check downs.
That's it.
They're not going to do it.
The
quarterback and the OC going to be like, you know what, take the shot. And when they do, you got to make them pay.
But here's the problem with that. The problem with that is this. What the Dolphins do is they do a hell of a job exploiting the middle of the field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do.
There's only been a handful of quarterbacks that do that. Drew Brees Drew Brees to the point where they used to take their number one receiver and play him in the slot. Michael Thomas.
Which was unheard of.
Go Bucks.
Which was unheard of, but that's where that started. And Drew Brees was so accurate that he only started having problems when he got older and couldn't make those throws in the middle of the field. That's when you knew his career was coming to an end. It wasn't whether the arm was strong enough. It was that he couldn't throw those balls in the middle of the field, which is where he made all of his living. So in order to defend that, you have to have one or two things. First thing you got to do is stop the run. Because if you don't stop the run and the linebackers come up, the middle of the field is even wider, is even bigger. And that's what kind of happened to the Browns. Couldn't stop the run. You bring the linebackers down. You're still not stopping the run. And then they throw it over top of the linebackers into the middle of the field with cover two, and it looked like they had green grass for days. So my whole thing is that as the game is going on, you see what's happening. I could see what was happening. We all could see all the green grass in the middle of the field. And so now you got to counter that. And you might not have to counter it next week. You might not have to counter it the week before. But football is fluid. You got to do the things to win the game today. And if that means that you play a little out of your comfort zone, you're going to lose anyway if you keep doing the same damn thing.
There it is.
You see what I'm saying?
I think that's what's so frustrating. It's the adjustments. Right. It's the no adjustments. Like you just go ahead and keep doing the same thing. Like do something.
I'm careful with this. But Ty, I'm careful with this. Is that we've had this conversation.
It might be an adjustment and they just ain't getting it.
You don't know, right.
They just ain't
you
getting it.
You don't know if guys are doing the right things. And that the guy calling the plays on defense.
Well, I said
see
that.
See a guy go in motion.
I said that.
The right
Leroy,
guy ain't following him. And he's like, check two.
Or active sabotage. Now, when you now what I no, hold on. Watch this. Now watch this. I'm coming with this. Watch this. When you play for a coach, and that coach done lost your mindset. You would have seen play after play. He tell you all week, we're going to run this. You get to the play, you get to the game, and you look at the other side of the field, and you say, these dudes done smoked us again in this game plan. And then what happens is when he start talking to you, when he start telling you what you're going to do, a lot of cats is like, well, I'm going to just go for self. Maybe I do got contained, but I'm trying to get a sack. Maybe I am supposed to deliver hands, but I'm not paying. And a lot of people.
But see, the thing about that, though, G, is that active sabotage you try to do, that's not going to hurt nobody but yourself.
Ultimately trying to get the coach fired.
No.
Isn't that the end
They
game?
might not see that like that. They might look at it like, you get fired. We're going to release you.
Or if it's Myles Garrett, he ain't going nowhere.
He might be on the block and we don't know it.
Go ahead, Leroy.
G. Bush, here's the problem. That only work in basketball. You know why? That money is guaranteed.
True.
Hey, in football, you sign them big old contracts, but you can still get that knock on that door.
Yeah, you can.
We've gone in a different direction. So every time you go on the field, you impressing somebody. And to say a guy gonna go onto a football field and purposely sabotage his coach, y'all both gonna be eating at the Krispy Kreme. Because your ass gonna be gone too.
Hey, Leroy, we got a super chat question for you.
Leroy, this comes from Charles T. from Germany. Thanks to Charles for watching. And
shout out to Germany, man.
Yeah, Germany
in the house.
Long way away. But he says,
bombs!
He says, we know Woods is gone. What other players should be gone too?
Is good.
Look, one of the things that needs to happen defensively is that they got to get back to what they have done that's been successful before they determine who can do what. Because last year, it seemed like they were going after the quarterback a little bit more, right? it seems like they were more creative on defense as far as bringing guys off the slot, bringing guys up the middle, the A-gap blitzes, the linebackers. Look, if they can't cover, just rush them, right? Like, you got to have some type of way of being able to adjust with the flow of the game. I don't know how much of that the coaches want to do, but due to who's playing, they can't. And that's always a tough spot to sit here and kind of criticize, because we don't know. We don't know that Joe Wood wants to do a lot of different things but can't. And so it's the same thing as far as the offense. Like, we all like to think that this is the same offense that's going to be that they're going to run when Deshaun Watson gets in. But it's not, right? And so it becomes difficult to try to weed through what's really going on, because guess what? Let's take it to the beginning of the year. Like Ty said, you had a bunch of guys looking at each other, a bunch of guys pointing at each other. Who got who? I don't know. So now you the defensive coordinator. You're like, I got to rein this in. We can't do that, right? Mm-hmm. And now you've simplified it so much. Everybody know what to do, but y'all getting cracked every game.
or maybe play their asses in the preseason. If you don't know what you're doing, and you sitting around in this camp cupcake, and you're taking everybody drinking Kool-Aid with towels on their heads, hell yeah, you ain't gonna know what you doing.
Well, it might be that's the whole NFL.
Well, look, I always go to the Kansas City Chiefs. And they go to the AFC Championship every year. Them boys was out there practicing.
They played a lot.
Played week one. Patrick Mahomes.
Even Mahomes.
But Mahomes, that's Patty Mahomes. And if you don't know, MA's missed assignments means one thing. You're not in your book. You're not in that iPad.
That's a fact.
That fact. That's
a fact.
The only missed assignments is that means you're not in that pad.
Yep.
That's it. You knowing what you are supposed to do.
Because when you start off, that iPad give you every play with every check and adjustment you need to know.
All of them.
And you better know it. It ain't really no excuse.
So
right. But I would say this is that if that's the case, that ain't coaching. That's players. Right? Like you a grown ass man. Like, your coach shouldn't have to tell you
Facts.
With the amount of money you making and the amount of people depending on you to know what you need to do. Your coach shouldn't have to call you at home and say, are you going over your plays? Do you know what you have to do?
Leroy.
And so from that standpoint, I don't know, and we have this conversation about leadership. I've never played on a team where they didn't have that one guy that would either be supportive or put you in check.
Check it in with
Well, A-Walk is gone, so that was a big blow.
Yeah, so the void of leadership keeps coming up. It keeps coming up.
You know, it's a leadership meeting every week. They got like a position player. Every position group got a leader, and they meet with Kevin Stefanski once a week.
Well, it's not going so well.
I just want to know if your team has designated you, your position group has designated you to be they look at you as a leader.
The leader.
On game day, that means your voice, they will hear what you're saying. You should get them going. It
just looks
maybe
like
it
that's
is
not
happening because I don't see it on the
doesn't
TV.
look like it's happening. Leroy, let's bring in your old running back mate, Robert Smith. Robert, we've been chewing on this all week, all season. How the hell do you fix this? And I'm speaking specifically about the defense because Leroy's point is guys were missing assignments, coordinator dumbs down the defense, they're still getting cracked. So how do you dive in analytically and put out this dumpster fire? Where do you start?
I mean, at this point in the season, because you're really kind of out of options and bringing in new talent. I mean, I don't want to say you're screwed, but you kind of are, right? Like, you're kind of left to guys, as Leroy said, like, it's got to come down to guys kind of having pride and saying, even if it's not for this team, if it's for one of 31 other teams, everything that you do is put on film. And if you go out there and you prove to everybody that you have no idea what you're doing, or that you don't execute properly, or that you don't play with emotion, which you can really see, right? Like those kind of things just jump off the film when you look at the defense. And yeah, it can be demoralizing when teams are just running down your throat, and you're getting beat physically. But if you're just not out there trying, it always shows on defense, right? Because you have to have a certain level of emotion when you're playing defense, and a certain level of physicality to you, and it's just not there. So what's the answer? I don't know. I mean, ultimately it comes down to guys saying, my ass might be up out of the league if I don't play any better. And that's, to Leroy's point, like, there's always that guy, right? There's got to be somebody that's challenging people and saying, if you and CC used to always say this, Chris Carter, like, if you don't know the tempo, watch me, right? You got to have those kind of guys, and
Right.
and you know what? They just don't have those guys right now.
It's always interesting to me for the few teams that I played on. You can always tell, the success of a team when it comes to the tempo. So you know how in the league you have practice and then you have walkthrough. Some teams do walkthrough, some teams do practice first. So the first team that I've been on was Seattle, and we would come out there, it's a walkthrough, right? So you put your tennis shoes on and stuff like that. I see dudes out there in cleats. I'm a rookie, and I'm like, what the heck are you doing? Like, it's walkthrough.
Out there.
So I'm out there. You line up in corner. I'm lining up in corner. Like, I'm about to go through my stuff. It's all walkthrough. So this is some time to get some good reps here. Just slow. Them fools out there, bing, 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 gone. I'm like, whoa.
Hey.
So the tempo will walk. I'd be interested to see if this walkthrough tempo for the Browns is like that. Because you get routed in San Francisco or Seattle if you came with some walkthrough stuff. I'm just telling you. I'm just saying.
Ty, I'm going to tell you, I had a guy I could not stand practicing against. And that was John Randall. Because that dude was 100% wide open, walk through, pads, no pads.
I swear.
And
you embarrassed to walk through.
I was the only running back with a helmet and a mouthpiece and walk through in the gym. Because you had to deal with it. And you know what? I was mad as hell, but I respected the dude for this reason. That was the same energy he brought on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
I told you about them Thursday Pro Bowlers.
Yep.
Practice like you play.
Johnny brought it every single day. And guess what? If somebody on defense wasn't bringing it, you best believe he was getting after him.
He was not brother-in-law
and we
to
had
drill.
that on
No
offense.
brother, don't you brother-in-law to drill.
No! Hey, dude, we never practiced in pads. And I used to tell Johnny, I'm going to cut him. I'm going to cut you. He said, we ain't got no pads on. Stop with this nonsense. The whole day we would be yelling at each other because we got 3-step drops. And I'm going to fake like I'm going low. And he'll slap the ball out of the quarterback hand. And everybody yelling at me. Like it's walkthrough.
Hey, come on, you doing too much.
Leroy, I think
and you ask Robert if I'm lying. Every day.
The one thing about this
every day.
The one thing about this team that really bothered me the most on Sunday, it wasn't the misfits. It wasn't, all of the stuff that happened in the passing game and stuff like that. The one thing that got me the most was in the fourth quarter. I truly felt like they gave up. And that really broke my heart to see them just throw the chips in there. And that's crazy.
That's what that run game do to you.
No, I understand.
Cleveland did it to a bunch of teams.
I understand that, Leroy, but it's like, come on, man. Like you know how many people, it is, I'm on the outside looking in. As a free agent, all these free agents that's out here busting their butt, like you go 100% for every play, as long as you can, because there's people out here that's dying to be in that situation, and for you to give up in the middle of a game like that, I ain't with that.
You see
that part
you
really
see Robert's face when you said that run game?
But we've talked about this, right? We say it's on the players, but it's on the coaches too, in the sense that, like, you have to know how to motivate guys. And if the message is no longer, hey, do it for the old Browns, do it for your old coach. It's you better understand that this film. Every damn team in the league can see this. Like, you got to understand. Like, do you want to keep playing in the National Football League? And if that's what you need to pull out as a coach, that's why this week says so much, right? Like, how do you respond to that? Because things are going to go bad. No matter what, no matter if you play the game long enough, things are going to go bad. You're going to get embarrassed. You're going to do stupid things. Like, that's part of it, right? But how do you respond to that? How do you respond to that adversity? But more importantly, how do you respond when somebody challenges you? And say it like it is. Challenges your manhood. That's exactly what needs to happen. Like, do you want to man up and play this game or not? Period.
Can this coaching staff deliver that?
I don't know. We're going to find out, though, right?
I know a coach who could do it.
Name names.
G-Dub, Greg Williams. I swear.
Hey,
that cup of tea. Listen,
hey,
that cup
facts.
of tea I had with the OTAs when he was the DC.
Talk that Greg
that
Williams.
man to have you run through a wall.
Now let me ask you guys.
Yeah,
this.
and he'll incentivize you with some money for some legal
That's true,
hits
too,
too, right?
He may or may have not said some money was on the line.
Robert and Ty, you guys just touched on something that I wanted to ask the seasoned vets, okay?
Yeah.
Robert and Leroy, you guys played in a time where that was kind of the norm.
Put some change
And
on
if you
your head.
look at how the league has changed over, I'm just going to say since you guys left the game to today, practices have been reduced. Hitting has been reduced.
Okay.
The rules have been changed, all in the name of safety, but it's changed the product that we see on the field. Greg Williams used to be the norm. I'm told by guys that played in the day that this happened more than it didn't, these incentivized programs. And now the coaches, we've seen the trend for coaches is Ivy Leaguers, not the old school, I played in the trenches for 15 years, John Maddens. Is this a product of the game shifting from the old gladiator to what we have today? Is the Browns the ultimate product of that shift?
Well, I can't say that the Browns by themselves are. I mean, when you sit with the coaches and you talk about, how you develop players, like it takes more. It's just different now. Look at offensive lines, and they talk about offensive linemen and just how difficult it is to develop those guys because they're coming from passing offenses, a lot of them in college. They're not doing the run blocking the same way that they were. But that's supposed to be the reason why more physical teams, and I know that we didn't see this last week with the Browns and some, I know there were some injuries on the offensive line, but why when teams kind of do that, when they kind of go to those heavier personnel and they get multiple linemen, they get the pullers around, that they're more successful. I think that it is partially, though, because the mentality has changed. The game just isn't what it was because players, they're not hitting the same way throughout the course of the week. But, I just don't understand it. Like, motivation, what's your motivation? I mean, you want to stay in this league. If you put it in terms of money if you don't want to just say about pride. Like, do you want to keep getting paid? You want to keep getting paid to do this, to play this game? Then you need to show up and play. And, defense is just different, man. Like, guys they need a different mentality. And, we talk about Johnny Randall. Johnny Randall is one of those guys. He's one of those light switch guys as far as off the field. You could tell he's an intense guy, but just, laughing, joking around. But when he was on that field, just, hey, man, I would if he was lined up against his mom, like, sorry, Mom, like, you're going to have to take a couple hits. Like, I got a job to do, right?
hey, and we ain't kidding, man. I'm telling you, that dude. But here's the other thing. I remember we used to. My roommate for away games was Harold Mora, and we would have the little night. We would have the little night meeting before we went to bed, Now, you very rarely had a conversation with Denny. He would always talk to your position coach to talk to you. And he would stand over on the side and watch practice. But if he got mad, right, you knew all hell was going to break out. Now, I will say this. When I got to Minnesota, I had to look for my pads on Friday to pack them. So we didn't practice full pads that much at all, okay? But Denny would give that speech the night before the game. And, you know, as you get older, you kind of heard everything. But my roommate was young, and he go, we get in the room, and he say, dog, I'm going to tell you right now, no sudden moves. I might come over there and hit you. I'm like, whoa. I say, man, what we doing? He was so fired up the night before the game. And certain coaches just had that, right? Certain coaches just had. Denny did it without a whole lot of, like, team meetings. Like a whole lot of, you know, conversation. But you knew he meant business. And so you knew you had to go out there and do a job. Now, our offensive coordinator was a yeller. So there was that, too.
Did you guys have Mike Tice? Was that Mike Tice?
Mike Tice was the line coach.
Okay. And then you had, what's his name?
Brian Billick.
Baron Billick for the week. Got you.
Yeah. And
did you guys, and I'm going to ask you guys this question as a tandem. Have you ever seen, because, you know, OG, my man Brad, OG always talks about it. He's like, man, sometimes you got to have you a sacrificial lamb. They don't even, you come in one day and you come off the road, you and your boy, all of a sudden he get that call up to the office and then he come down with that Dear John letter and you then got demoted. Have y'all ever seen a situation where somebody like was a prominent player, wasn't given it, thought he was in there, and they made that decision to kind of wake some people up in the locker room? You ever see that? That happen where you was doing it?
See, but it just never had to happen with Denny, and Denny would say it all the time. Like, show up late to a meeting, he's like, I won't fine you, but I'll cut your ass. You know what I mean? Like,
that was
like, I mean, it was understood. But again, this kind of goes back to the composition of the locker room. We always had those guys in there. When I first got, you know, into the league, it was Henry Thomas, it was Chris Dolman, it was Johnny Randall, guys like that. You know, and then on the offensive side, you know, you had Chris Carter, you had Warren Moon, you know, you had all kinds of leaders, and like there's just a mindset. And so, you know, when you ask whether this coaching staff can do it, like, I'm not in that locker room. I don't know what's being said. All you can do is judge a team by what it does on the field. And, you know, to Ty's point, like if guys like are literally looking like they're giving up, you put that on film the next day, on Monday. And that's what you do. Like, we used to watch special teams film together. And, you know, because you understand it's so important. You want the whole team seeing and understanding what level of motivation and physicality it takes to play, right? Well, if you're pulling up that defensive film and you're watching those plays and you're watching guys loaf, you know, when you're out there and you feel like you're busting your ass and then somebody, you know, is just jogging, like if you're not in each other's faces and challenging each other, you don't. Again, you know, we said this, you know, a couple of weeks ago. Like, if you're not comfortable being uncomfortable, if you're not willing to listen to your teammates that are telling you that you need to step it up or step out, then, you know, I don't know what else you can do as a player.
It almost looks like it's a collection of both. The coaches aren't doing it, and it doesn't look like this team has the players internally to like the Chris Carter. If you don't know the tempo, watch me. I know the Browns had a key injury on defense, and Walker was that guy, but it doesn't look like internally there's a fire being lit by the players either. So that just compounds the problem. If there is a lack of that on the coaching side, there's no one there to crack the whip. There's no one there to make this team feel the sense of urgency that the fans feel.
You know what this has a feel of?
What's that?
I had this a lot in Cleveland. I used to play and run really hard. When I was having success, it energized the rest of the team.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just because I was playing so hard. Nick Chubb is that guy. You ever notice when Nick Chubb is getting off, Kareem Hunt is getting off, it seems to energize the rest of the team.
It does. It does.
Right? And when they don't have
I bet you
hold
that's
that
bull.
thought,
I bet
Leroy.
you that's bull hopping
Well,
on the line.
he's got no choice but to hold that thought. But
Yeah, he is holding that thought.
But to Leroy's point, you look at the game last week, right? The run game's not going, and even Nick Chubb puts the ball on the ground. You're like, what the hell's going on?
I know.
Right?
I know.
But it just takes somebody, player, coach, knowing what buttons to press.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to a coaching staff. Like, you have to know. Yeah, you can't treat everybody the same, but you have to be fair to everybody, right? You have to understand what guys need that kick in the ass. You need to understand what guys need to understand. Okay, well, inside of this structure, this is why you can't, you can't step with this foot, or you can't move inside on this play. You just have to be able to challenge guys, I think. And
within any group, there needs to be accountability.
Yes.
And there needs to be a work ethic and pride, and unfortunately, it just doesn't look like it's there. Guys, we've got to move, but Leroy, I'm glad you came back on, because I wanted to say this before we left you guys. That was one of the more insightful conversations that we've had on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Your guys just kind of picking this whole thing apart, and just the whole thing. I was honored to be able to watch it. It was well done. So Robert and Leroy, thanks for your contributions, because that was.
Hey, just Jay, one last quick statement about Denny and leadership. I don't know if you remember this one, Leroy, and I think you were with the team then. But the best night before speech that Denny ever gave is he just walked up in front, walked back and forth a couple times, and said, "All right, man, let's go." Didn't say a damn thing, because
Wow.
if you see what the Browns must have seen on film watching that game from last week, and you don't know what the hell needs to be done, then you're playing the wrong damn game, partner.
Yeah, right.
You're playing the wrong game.
It is. You sometimes a coach can walk in, look at everybody, and say, "My guys are ready." You don't need to say nothing. Get the hell out. Let's go get a good night's sleep. And it's happened. But you have to have that understanding of your team. And I think a lot of times these new coaches, they think they know the team, but they don't know the guys that they need to get going to get the team going. Right? So the guys you need to needle. For example, there was a story down here where Mike McDaniel went up to Tyreek Hill and said, they recorded their speeds. And he said, "Great job. You were number 5 today." To Tyreek Hill. What the hell you think happened the next 2 days?
Yeah, he was number 1 by a lot.
Right. But that's
how you push his buttons. Right. That's how you push his buttons.
That's how you do it.
And that's a skill set I don't know if you're learning at Harvard.
No.
Right. It's creative. Sometimes it's fun. We used to sit in the running back room and make fun of each other, and this is how we doing it. Hey, what you doing here? Right? What are you looking at? How you try? And we would do that, but you always knew that it was all for the common good, right? Nobody got offended. Right. Nobody got offended. Right? I remember one time I fumbled and my coach came over and yelled at me. And Chris Carter came over and looked at Carl and said, who the hell else you gonna put in? Robert Hurt. Right? And that was the end of that. I knew what the deal was.
Hold the damn ball.
But that was it.
Yep. Leroy, Robert, great job. We'll talk to you guys next week. Hopefully it's a round to win.
All right, fellas.
Hey,
okay,
guys.
guys.
Tell you what. Hey, Tyvis.
Oh, thanks for the win,
Robert,
Leroy. I appreciate it.
I ain't gonna be so damn nice next week.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Y'all better be ready.
I think we are. We've been waiting the whole 365 days. We're good.
Okay.
Go Bucks.
Okay. All right.
Go
We'll
Bucks.
see.
Oh, wait.
We'll see. Yeah. Okay.